Hi, this is Mark Wallstrom, the host of the Settlement Channel, and you're watching Speaking of Settlements. Well, today I'm going to discuss an article that was in the Wall Street Journal this weekend entitled, Are Annuities Being Overhyped as a Retirement Cure-All? Well, this follows closely on the news that came out about 2-3 weeks ago that President Obama and his economic advisors are going to be I wouldn't say pushing annuities, but encouraging the use of annuities for people in retirement or approaching retirement to provide more guaranteed income. We've already done a previous podcast on what the benefits are and how they work, but the writers of this particular article, Ann Tergeson and Leslie Skizum of the Wall Street Journal staff, they bring up some good points and a few things that I think are a little bit, I wouldn't call misleading, but simplistic. So I'd like to expand a little bit on the article for our readers, and we will be providing a link to their article as well. The first point that they make is that while the government's going to be encouraging these, and that in uncertain times and also in a period of time when people are living much longer, the danger and risk of outliving your assets or having your assets plunge precipitously while you're in retirement and having your income drop with it, that has tremendous financial and social impacts that ultimately the government has to address. So I certainly encourage and applaud the government for recognizing that annuities for the vast majority of Americans at retirement or near retirement, particularly as they get older, make a tremendous amount of sense. You know, it's the old saying, the return of principal is more important than return on principal sometimes, and this is certainly a case where that applies. We just need people who get money every single month in order to pay their bills. They don't need the absolute top dollar or the absolute highest yield. They need an income that they can count on, that they can't outlive, and that they can't see mismanaged. So that's the advantage of the annuities. They bring up a great point, though, in the article, and that point is that in today's environment, and this is something that we struggle with in the settlement profession right now, because essentially what we sell in the settlement profession is an immediate annuity product, is that we are looking at historically low interest rates. And it makes it very difficult as an advisor in the area of court settlements or in the area of annuities to tell people that they should be locking their money into a lifetime investment or an irrevocable investment at a time when interest rates are so low. So they're absolutely correct in addressing that concern. And they give a couple of good suggestions and good ideas as to how people can begin to do that. I'm firmly of the conviction that we're going to see rising interest rates. To what degree and to what amount, we can only speculate. But with the type of deficits that we're running, with the what has to eventually be the weakness in the dollar, we can have to imagine that interest rates are going to go up over the next 2 to 4 to 6 years. I just don't think anybody would plausibly disagree with that, although we'll get a wide range of opinion as to how high those rates will go and when that increase starts. But when it does start, one of the things that you're going to want to be able to do is capture those higher rates as they come due. So one of the things they talk about in this article is the idea of staggering your purchases of the immediate annuity over a period of years. There's a couple of different strategies that we use with people to do that, both in the structured settlement market and in the regular retirement market, wherein we put people into deferred annuities that mature at certain dates in time. They're getting fixed rates of interest, and then we annuitize or we start different monthly incomes as interest rates go up. It's very similar to a laddered bond strategy. It has many of the same attributes and benefits. It's highly conservative. Again, it's not a market-beating strategy, but it does prevent you from locking all of your money in now at a time when rates are historically low. The other issue they talk about is the mortality assumption. Every year that you delay starting an annuity, particularly a life contingent annuity, you're a year older and you're going to get a better rate from the insurance company because you're a year closer to your eventual date of departure from this earth. So there's a calculus that goes on, and you really need to speak with a trained professional in the settlement profession or in retirement planning who understands these annuities and is able to give you an indication as to what that trade-off is and when the time is to pull the trigger on that. My own feeling is that people over the age of 75 should strongly consider going to a fixed annuity strategy, again, depending upon their health, depending upon their family history, depending upon their family circumstances. And the third bit of advice that they give that I think is generally quite good is that people limit their purchases to highly rated life insurance companies, and they list a few in the article. I personally think they leave out a few very good companies, and I don't think their list was meant to be all inclusive. But they say, well, if it's AAA or AA rated by Standard & Poor's, and yes, those are the benchmarks. But one of the things that I'm going to be talking about all this month is the issue of A versus A+ rated life companies. One of the things we need to get back to as advisors and professionals in this area is judging risk and looking at companies that maybe aren't the highest rated, looking at why they're not the highest rated, seeing if there's a likelihood that their rates or rating is going to improve, and whether or not there's actually a substantial difference in the safety and the quality of that company that would preclude a company from consideration that may have better rates and a better return for clients. So we'll be talking about companies, but again, obviously you don't want to be dealing with companies that you don't recognize, that you don't know, that don't enjoy at least an A rating from AM Best, at least a single A+ or a AA+ rating from Standard & Poor's or Moody's. And again, before you make those decisions, it always makes sense to comparison shop. Any professional you're working with should have a wide range of annuity companies that they represent. They should be able to give you a cost-benefit analysis between the highest rated company and those that are not quite as highly rated. So all in all, I think the article from the Journal was very good. I think the headline was a little bit alarmist, and are they overhyped? And obviously, whenever the insurance industry gets news that makes one of their products look good, I mean, they're off to the races and they're promoting it, and they're going to be beating the drum. So you do have to watch out for abuses and over-exaggeration and hype. But be that as it may, annuities are an excellent source of safe income and security for the vast majority of retirees and people in personal injury cases. You definitely want to consider them. You want to look at them first as a foundational product, and then also have some other assets that are managed and maintained on the side so that you have adequate liquidity. Well, thank you for joining me again this week on Speaking of Settlements. We'll be back again next week. This is Mark Wallstrom, and you've been watching the Legal Broadcast Network.